Hello, children. Today we are joined for notes by my cat Socks. He probably won't be much use because he doesn't know a lot about the Civil War, unfortunately. But today I'm going to go over some brief background on the Civil War. Stop it. Background on the Civil War, since it's been a hot minute since you guys have done that. It's probably been since 8th grade, right? And most of you are juniors, so I'm sorry we've waited so long to continue your American history education. Oh, what is this? Oh my goodness. Okay, so let me give you some background on the Civil War, and then we'll get into Reconstruction. Let's go. Oh no, I'm covering the South. There you go. All right, so background on the Civil War. Most of you probably already know or remember from 8th grade. Civil War is fought between the North and the South, basically. The Union is the North, these green states up here, and they do not have slavery. And the South is the Confederacy, these red states down here, and they do have slavery. So if you want to put it very broadly, the Civil War is caused by slavery. However, if you want to nuance it, it's not over the moral issue. So it's not like the Northerners are like, oh my God, we should not be owning slaves. That is immoral, and they are people too. That's not the reason. The reason is over the political and economic control of slavery. So basically, the federal government wants to end slavery because when they're expanding into these Western territories that are not states yet, they want to make sure that everyone who goes into those states can be free. And the Southern states are like, but what about our slaves? We would like to bring them with us if we're expanding into the Western territories. Um, so the Southern states have an issue with the control of the federal government over what they are doing. So the real issue is the federal government is telling state governments what to do, and the states believe they should have more control over the government. So states' rights is a big issue. If you see under causes here, slavery is a big issue because the southern states basically want to keep their slaves, and they're being told by the federal government that they cannot keep their slaves. So they split from the north. It becomes the Union and the Confederacy, and the Union eventually ends up winning. Why does the Union win? Because they have more resources, they have trains, they have all of the factories up there to produce materials. It's just the North is way better disposed for going to war than the South is at this point. And you'll see that in the pre versus post war assignment that you have for Wednesday. Aftermath of the Civil War. So after the Civil War is over, there's 650,000 military dead, and that's on the north and south side. So tons of people are dead. Since the Civil War is mostly fought in the South, there's tons of destruction from the Civil War. It destroyed 2/3 of Southern shipping and 9,000 miles of railroads. And the South didn't have that much railroad to begin with. So 9,000 miles is pretty detrimental. And then 1 in 3 Southern men was killed or wounded. So they don't have a big population of men anymore to reproduce, you know? So if you look up here, this picture is of a city in the South, and you can see the like total destruction of the city here. These buildings are literally destroyed down to the bricks, right? So all of this destruction causes an economic depression, which means that they have a decrease in production as well. So even in the north, there's a decrease in production in the factories. In the south, there definitely is, because a bunch of southern factories are destroyed. 2.3 million slaves are freed, which contributes to the economic depression because now we have 2.3 million more new people entering the job market, pretty much. Maybe not women as much as men, but even half of that 1.15 million people looking for jobs. That's a wild amount, right? So one of the solutions that the South comes up with to kind of fix the slave issue, them looking for jobs, is the sharecropping system, which is super important. So please pay attention if you haven't been thus far. So sharecropping is a system that the South develops. And it's basically in response to slaves no longer having, like, them no longer being free labor. So slaves need jobs, or freedmen, I guess, need jobs. And this system is meant to fix that. So originally, landowners, the plantation owners in the South, are like, hey, let's just re-implement gang labor, which was a system that was used during slavery. And basically what it was they had a set time that they were supposed to work. The slaves were supposed to work, and they were working in a group all day for their like 12 hours or whatever it was a day. And they were driven to work by an overlord, like a guy on a horse in the field, who would whip them if they were not doing the job that they were supposed to be doing during those 12 hours. So freedmen come over and they're like, no, we're not going to do gang labor anymore. That's wild. We are free now. No way. So the solution that is settled upon is sharecropping. So basically, what happens in sharecropping is the landowner will divide the plantation into 20 to 50 acre plots. So they take their farmland and they divide it up into little like square sections. And they let the slaves or the freedmen live on one plot, one 20 to 50 acre plot, and they let them farm that land by themselves. So the freedman is allowed to like build a little house on that land and they can farm that land themselves. But then they have to give a portion of their profit to the landlord, the landowner. So this sounds like pretty good, right? Like pretty good deal. You get like a little piece of land that's your own, and you just have to give them a portion of the goods. But it kind of keeps a system of debt with the slaves or the freedmen, because the landlords are charging interest on the loaned land and the supplies, which the freedmen do not have the money to pay because they were recently released from slavery where they earned no money. So they're starting out with $0. They're starting out with literally $0. And the landlords are charging them interest on everything they're loaned. So the landlords are giving them seeds, they're giving them supplies to farm the land, they're giving them plows, horses, whatever they need to farm. But then they're charging like crazy prices, sometimes up to 70% on those interest rates, to keep the freedmen now in debt forever. So the freedmen will never be able to escape from this debt to their landlord. So basically, it's a legal form of slavery. And this just shows you the process. Wah. So by the time sharecroppers had shared their crops and paid their debts, they rarely had any money left. Often they were uneducated and could not argue with landowners or merchants who cheated them, and a sharecropper frequently became tied to one plantation, having no choice but to work until his debts were paid. So usually forever forever and ever. They're stuck on this land. So they're provided land and seed, buys food and clothing on credit from the landowner's store, plants and harvests, and then ends up having to sell all of his crops back to the landowner. And then this graphic says sharecropper will get half the earnings minus the cost of his purchases for that year. And the purchases are pretty substantial. When settling up, landowner says that sharecropper owes more than he has earned. And then to pay debt, sharecropper must promise landowner a greater share of next year's crops. So it just continues to keep them in a cycle of poverty, which explains a lot of the stuff that's happening now. A lot of African Americans have been kept in a cycle of poverty even in 2020, and this is happening in the late 1860s, right? So it's just not good, not a good system. And that is all I have for the background on the Civil War. Okay, so please go complete the pre-post assessment on the Civil War, that assignment, and then go ahead and watch the next notes video. Thank you.